Follow the Black College Sports Network on social media at MyBCSN1, the number 1, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at MyBCSN1. Support the Black College Sports Network so we can continue to provide you coverage. Go to myjbn.com/support and be a part of the Black College Sports Network. Hello, welcome back to the BCSN SportWrap. Bryan Fulford here, and it's a pleasure to be joined by Miss Keisha Kelley of Black College Experience. And Keisha, it's a pleasure to have you on. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I think I'm still coming off of the weekend high, but I'm doing pretty good.
It's a busy weekend. I know you were all over. Felt like the country, all over the South at least. I look at the number of games, and I mean this spring is unprecedentedly busy right now. Just for everyone who, not only just the HBCUs, but even those of us who kind of cover HBCUs.
Correct. It has. It's been one of the busiest. I think it's been busier than it seems like our fall sports. It seems like it's been a busier because you're running back and forth, trying to cover. And it seems like even though the weeks aren't different, it just seems like you're trying to cover, and it seems like it's more weeks on the road. So it might be a big game this weekend, and then you might get to skip a weekend or two in the fall. But in the spring, it's like you're going back to back to back with those big games. So it is. And then the thing is that it's not just football. Then you got stuff like combine in there. It's like Senior Bowl. So it's so many things that's plugged into this spring season. We're definitely, and then you're trying to keep the stories going along with that. It is. It's a lot.
Yeah, I got to thinking about it. I think it was last weekend because at one point we had basketball. We were at the end of the basketball season with our teams that were in the tournament.
Correct.
We had football. We had baseball going on. I mean, there was just track and field, softball. I mean, everything was going on. And I don't know about you, but given where we were a year ago at this very time, not knowing what was going on in the world or what was going on with sports, I'm okay with what we've had to deal with this spring. What are your thoughts about this time of year, maybe compared to a year ago?
Honestly, I'm okay with where we are as well. I actually like this spring football and the spring sports, but it kind of gave us a time to breathe, to kind of regroup. And it's kind of like, okay, even though you're busy now, I still don't feel like I'm as busy with the traveling as I was then. And so it's giving us some time to, like you said, step back, because you had football going on, you had basketball, you had track and field, you had baseball, all at the same time. So like you said, given where we were a year ago, it's perfect for me, because a year ago we were just hoping by the fall we got to football. That's what we were hoping for a year ago. So yeah.
Right. What do you think, or where do you think schools will be, or maybe I guess a better way of saying it is, what are your thoughts on what are the challenges coming out of this spring as school administrations start dealing with life after COVID, and hopefully we're starting to move forward past it. But what do you think are going to be some of the challenges that schools and even student athletes, I'm sure we all talk to these kids about the past year or maybe even the future. Where do you think the Black colleges and these programs are going to be looking like maybe 2-3 years down the road after this past year?
Well, I do. I call this the trial and error stage, and I think that one of the main things is we saw so much exposure. We're seeing so much exposure with ESPN. I think all eyes are, being that we're able to play in the spring, all eyes are on HBCUs. I think only one of the things, though, I'm always concerned about is the financial aspect of where it will lead these programs, because you don't have, those games where you have like a Southern and a FAMU, or, you're actually at a certain capacity that you can gain. So you're not operating at a full capacity, then that's money that's left on the table. So my biggest concern is always, the financial part, but I'm always concerned and more so happy, for the aspect of the athletes. Now, the thing is that if you have athletes that didn't get to play, what happens when they graduate? That means that they lost a year. So that's another concern. The only thing is that, just say that you were graduating, you lose that last year of eligibility, like you don't get to play anymore because of graduation and because of COVID. Like, what if you don't get to play anymore? And that's how you end up ending your college career. And so many of those students and student athletes, male and female, they look forward to, that senior year. It's always the trash talk and camaraderie no matter what it is. So that would be my concern, is them losing that last year of playing time.
Yeah, and I also think that besides losing it, making that decision to lose it, it'll be interesting to see with the extra year that a lot of schools that the NCAA and the NAIA are giving these schools, how schools manage rosters.
Right.
Because they're not, from my understanding, they're not increasing the number of scholarships.
Correct.
But it's like there's an overload of kids. So it's like, which set of kids lose out? Is it the kids that are there?
Right.
Or is it the kids who are coming in? And
correct.
I happen to work in a high school setting, and I was telling a young man the other day with a scholarship offer, I said, man, look, if you got a school that likes you and you like that school, you better hurry up and sign.
Right.
You who knows? I mean, there's somebody who may transfer in the portal or put their name in the portal. We see it happening almost every day. Every day. And you could lose out on what was a good scholarship because you want to wait to see what your other opportunities. You don't have time to wait to see what other opportunities are.
You don't. At this point, you don't. And things are changing. And it's just like I know you saw the movie Draft Day.
Yes.
They're making and I was watching it again last night for like the 100th time. And when he was making the decision and he said, we live in a different world than we did 30 seconds ago. That's exactly how it is. You do not have time to keep making decisions. And I think that's where a lot of athletes go wrong.
Before we get into some of the recent news, I want to kind of go back a little bit and maybe talk a little bit about how you got to where you are today. You're a Southern University grad. Tell me, if you don't mind sharing a little bit about where you're from and how you found your way to Southern.
So I am originally from Huntsville, Alabama. So that means I'm about 10 minutes from Alabama A&M. So Alabama A&M is home for me. I tell people Alabama A&M raised me. Southern University made me. I have a twin sister that graduated from Alabama A&M. And so I say it started with this whole, the Black college or the love for Black college sports or sports in general started somewhere 9th grade in high school. But the love for Black college sports probably started about 8 years or so ago. But my actual working, I started off working in it was a crowd, game day crowd experience or something like that. And I was working for, at the time it was Huntsville Flight. So it was a National Basketball Developmental League, which of course now is defunct. I worked for them and my job was simply game day interaction. So I was getting the crowd hype, passing out prizes. And I actually enjoyed that. I don't know why, but I enjoyed that. Being in the middle, being in that experience, like I was a part of the team. I really loved it. And so I actually started to get to know some of the players. And one of the players I don't remember, but I remember Mateen Cleaves. It was one of the people I could remember playing on the team at that time. And so it's like we kind of all developed relationships. And from there, after I left there, I did some arena football work. So arena football team was big then, Tennessee Valley Vipers. I kind of watched them, start talking to a guy that played for the Vipers. Then I got season tickets and I was like, well, shoot, I can do this. And so from there, I kind of watched the game, traveled with the team, wrote about the team. And then it just kind of full bloomed into something different. And so in 2011, when I moved to Atlanta, I was on radio for like 2 or 3 weeks. And the radio lost its dial. And I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing sports anymore. I'm doing radio. We're not doing this anymore. I was like, it's not meant to be. And then about 2013, 2014, I came back into sports radio. Someone asked me, and I've been doing like different shows. And around 16 is when I said, okay, I want to do strictly Black college sports, because we were doing segments on just the SWAC, like a 15-minute segment. I would update the world on 15-minute segment. And you can't get Black college sports in 15 minutes, but I tried.
Right.
And so I tried hard. And so SWAC turned into stuff going on in the MEAC. And it was stuff going on. It was like, Keisha, why don't you just do a show? And so the guy said, why don't you do a 2-hour show? I said, listen, 2 hours is too long to be talking on radio. I can give you 1 hour, but I can't give you 2, because you can't keep people's attention for 2 hours.
It's hard.
So, okay. And so after that, we went into that, and I was like, and I kind of went back and forth. And then in 2018 or 2000, we're going out 2016 towards that, I bounced back and forth. We were still on internet radio. We were set to go on in May. We went to in May. Right in the mix of that, my father was transitioning. So in the middle of his transition, when we were supposed to go live, my father ended up passing away. And so I had to delay the show again. And so after that, we went full force in 2016, and I have not looked back since then. Have not looked back since.
Did you, when you were at Southern, did you do any kind of work with the Southern athletics department or communications departments or anything like that?
I did write for the newspaper. I wrote for the Southern Digest. So I was in journalism. I did write, but as far as athletics, I did no work with athletics. I like none of that. And it's so weird, because everybody's like, well, how did you get so ingrained and so immersed in? I did nothing with athletics. I did nothing in communications, nothing of the sort.
I'm just curious, because you mentioned being part of the newspaper. What segment did you, what department or what section did you write for with the newspaper?
So I was just like in the general. So it wasn't anything, like I wasn't in sports or anything. It was just what's going on around campus. And right. I was excited about writing about that. I was excited about that, because kind of like breaking news, because I can still remember writing my first story, and it was students that couldn't get dorms or something like that. And I was so excited because I saw my name and I was like, look, my article's been published. And I was so excited. But I was like, oh, and now every now and then I go back and I Google just to see if I can find it in the archives, just to see if I can find my work. Yes. And that was, oh God, like 20 years ago. But I go back and I Google and I find, and I was like, oh, I remember being that freshman writing that story. I do. I still remember that. But no, I wasn't this, oh my God, breaking reporter. No, definitely not.
It's funny you mentioned that. I remember for a moment, I did a little period with the FAMU, which is the Florida A&M's student newspaper. Mm-hmm. And I remember a similar story about students not being able to get dorm rooms. I mean, so I used to always think when I read that story, I'm like, why did y'all wait so long? But anyway, that's another, that was just me. Because the minute I was doing paperwork, man, I was filling that thing out, and I was trying to get in a good dorm, the one that had carpet. So I filled that application out real quick.
Correct.
How, in terms of sports, while you were at Southern, I'm trying to think. You finished Southern in 2003, right?
Correct.
So that was, let me see. So you were there was that towards the end of the Pete Richardson, or that was the prime Pete Richardson years?
For me, I would say prime Pete Richardson years. Because it was so much going on. I think I was probably like on the helm of Quincy Richard and everybody around that time. So like right after like Terrence Levy and everybody in that segment. So I would say the prime Pete years, because we were still rocking and rolling, trying to get championships at the time. So yeah, I was there. I always say I'm old Southern. 99 to 03 was my time at Southern University. So I always say we're old Southern, but yeah, definitely at the prime time of Pete, definitely.
And so you spent a lot of time going to different events and games and stuff like that.
I did. Yeah. I did. And so, now, Bryan, you can actually stream games now. Yeah. So when I was at Southern, you had to go. You couldn't stay in the dorm. I don't think you could stay in a dorm. I think they made you go to the games, plus you paid for it. So I think my parents would have appreciated me going anyway, because my dad paid his money. But we literally had to go. And we wanted to go to the games. We wanted to go. People had this whole, come on, now keep in mind, we're 18, 19-year-old kids. So it wasn't like, oh my God, I'm just going to support the football team 100%. It's like, okay, you go and get dressed up. You want to see your friends, your fellowship, and you waiting to have time to leave, to go back to the room, get dressed, so you get ready for the club. but we had to go. And I was a supporter of everything,
Yeah.
football, baseball, basketball. We were there supporting every event on campus.
And you weren't on your phone the entire time. Now, I mean, I'm not calling kids out today,
Exactly.
but I know from just the kids that I see, I work at a high school, so I know with just high school kids, they go to the game and everybody's on their phone. So it's like if the action's not moving, they're on their phone. So it's like,
Absolutely.
I don't
Absolutely.
know. Yeah. So no, those were good times. Those were definitely good times.
Definitely.
What was the rivalry like between you and your sisters? Your sister, now you said she went to Alabama A&M. What was she heavy into sports? I mean, when you came home for holidays, what was that like?
And it's so funny. My sister does not care, and I tell people this all the time. My sister does not care about sports. She's oblivious to it. She's like, whatever. The only time is if Southern and A&M are playing, and if Southern loses, I'll tell her like, listen, my school lost, and she'll laugh, but it's nothing. It's like no big deal to her. She doesn't care. Now it's personal to me because if we win, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to discuss it. I'm going to have all these conversations. But with her, she'll just say, okay. And it's nothing more to it. She doesn't care at all.
Yeah. Interesting. I'm always, I think as especially as I've gotten into talking about games and talking about players, when you start seeing where some of these young men and women are from,
yep,
I start getting curious about how they found themselves at HBCU.
Right.
For example, I think there's a young man, and we had the pleasure of doing Southern's baseball game at the Lone Star Classic. So I came away really impressed. I mean, I learned, and granted, it's hard to keep up with everything. So I'm being honest. I had very little knowledge of Southern's baseball history, other than you see the wins and the championships, blah blah blah. But there are guys on that roster. I think there's a young man who's from Wisconsin, and we were talking with the coach who had just recently left and is now in the MLB. He was talking about how he recruited the young man, and because you see he's from somewhere in Wisconsin. I'm from the Midwest, and I know. When I saw that city, I was like, yeah, there's very little HBCU folks there unless his mother, father, grandfather, or somebody in that family tree is an HBCU grad. I bet there may be nobody up in that area who's heard of Southern or an HBCU.
Right.
So it's just like one of those things where I've gotten really interested in how people have found themselves to HBCUs. Because it's like we all have a story. Or we have something that sort of influenced us to get us to where we are, no matter whether it's Southern, FAMU, Alabama A&M, and I tell you, I may be giving away some, but it'd be a fascinating book. I just gave an idea away for anybody, but it'll be a great coffee table book for
absolutely
somebody. Let me transition over to your the early years of Black College Experience, and when you finally decided on the name, which I love, by the way, because it just encompasses what it is. It encompasses what we do and just that thing. I mean, it just is it's a thing in itself. Who were some of the early influences or people who kind of helped you as you were starting to find your way through this sports media, Black college media world?
So it's so funny. Actually, the name came from a younger friend of mine that she did her master's at Southern. Now she's actually getting ready to defend her dissertation this week at the University of Alabama. So I'm proud to say Cam, actually, she was the person that actually gave us the name. And I was like, oh, that sticks. I like that. So she came up with the name. And as far as I say influence, there's another guy that played for Southern that I still go to now. His name is Morrell Carter. We just call him Mo. He's, I can call Mo, talk to Mo, text Mo, whatever it is at any time. And Mo has always been a major influence because not only did he play the game, he's knowledgeable in the game, but I think he got his undergrad in history. So I can always go to Mo and he'll have a list of stats and stuff. And I'm like, I only need one thing, but Morrell will give me everything that I need. And check this out. He sent me something. Check this out. And so he has always been one of the most influential influential people. And it's crazy because when my father passed away, my first tour in a actual studio, television studio, he took me on. So we're in there walking through the studio and I'm looking at pictures. And so I would say that he was probably the biggest influence, I'd say, from back in the day. And then there was one other person named Angela that I always say she gambled on me because she believed enough in a little girl from Huntsville, Alabama, and believed that a woman needed to make herself known because it's tough. It's tough being a woman in this industry, trying to prove yourself, trying to get your point out, trying to get your voice heard. And so she did. And another girl, her name was Melnika. She was the one that actually said, okay, we have this going on with the radio. We would love for you to come in. So, it's just probably been 2 or 3 people. And since that time, people start to believe in you after, but those would probably be the 3 main people.
Talk a little bit about that, what you just mentioned about being first off, just being a female in the sports world, sports media world. I've heard different challenges, some disappointing to hear about, but there are definitely some rewarding things that you hear about. And then being an African-American female in this environment, what has been your experiences, or maybe where do you see in just the short time that you've been in the business, or maybe as you talk to some of those folks who have been in it longer, where do you see, or how have you seen things transition, hopefully towards a positive in terms of experiences, opportunities for Black females, for African-American women?
So I always tell people, where there's no opportunities, we create them. We have to, because I'm here in one of the largest markets I would consider. We're here in Atlanta. There are no Black women. There are no faces of Black women in this marketable sports marketable world. And so, if you look at that, you have to be determined to make a change in something. Even being a member of the National Association of Black Journalists is so many different people. You got a whole association of just us. And so you see the things start to transition, but you wonder, when will it change? And so it's hard when you know that you have the credentials, you have the education, you have the skill set, you have the experience, and you're competing with so many other people. And it's not to say that you can't be competitive. It's to say that you have to compete with your counterparts, and why they're getting through the door, and they have less credentials, less experience, less skill set, and you're wondering why, but why they're getting there. On the flip side of being a woman, it's always the constant, I got to argue with the man. You got to prove your point. A male feels like because they're a male that they know more. And that's not always the case. It's not always the case that you know more just because you're a man. And so you're constantly going through that. So now I'm at this point now where I don't even argue. I don't debate. I don't even try to explain to people, hey, I know more. It's like, either you go with it or you don't. If you don't believe it, then I feel like I put in my time, I've done the work, and I'm still doing the work every single day. And I was like, no disrespect to guys, but some of these guys I'm running circles around. It's the honest to God truth. Some of these people I'm running circles around. You can sit back and you can do whatever you do where you are, but I'm actually out here boots to ground doing the work.
Right. No, hey, I appreciate that. No, that's good to know. Definitely. So talking about boots to ground and kind of what's going on currently in our HBCU sports diaspora, as our good friend Dr. Cavill likes to say. Let's start with the combine, because there's a ton of different things we can go here, and I appreciate your time. Let's start with the combine, which I got to say I'm glad that they had it this year, given the fact that it got canceled last year. They had it at UAB, which has a great facility. I guess they have the indoor or the outdoor covered facility.
Right.
Everything seemed to be top notch. You had all 32 teams there. And what I liked is you had some guys from last year, 2020, who missed out on that opportunity. And then you had some of the guys who did opt to not play in the spring or not go into the fall another year, like Mac McCain, who he could have chosen to go back to A&T for another year. But, I mean, look, my man said he's ready to play. So share with me maybe some takeaways that you had from the combine experience this past weekend, I should say.
So, it's so funny because I was actually the first person there. And so, you know how it is when you get into that camaraderie and guys start talking. And so they were sitting in the lobby. And so with media, we do what we got to do. If you don't have a way, you make a way. No matter where you are, you set up wherever you are, you try to get interviews, you try to get names, pictures, whatever it is, because the time slot was so small. And so the facilities where they were actually, doing their drills and tryouts and workouts and everything they were at UAB, but we were over at the hotel. So we couldn't go on site to the facility. So we had to do all of our interviews and everything over at the hotel. So since I knew I was only going to be there one day, it's like, okay, you got to hit the ground running. So as soon as I got in, got credentials, got everything set up, and she's like, well, the guys are here. You can do whatever. You can just start doing your thing. And I'm grabbing guys one by one. Hey, come on. Hey, come on. You're first. You're second. And guys they're laughing, but once they get the hang of it, they're like, oh, okay, cool. I'm coming. I'm next. Okay. And then of course, guys coming in, they talking, they trash and hey, I'm the best here and I'm the best this and I'm the best that. But what I took away from it, that the most important thing that I took away from it is that all of the guys had so much excitement, and listening to guys say things like, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity to be able to get this opportunity again. I couldn't believe it. I was stunned. I'm just going to come. And I asked one guy, said, now that you got the opportunity, what are you going to do? He said, I'm going to eat, but I'm going to make sure I get full, is what he said. So, just hearing some of the stories from the guys, you could tell that a lot of them, just some of the numbers, even looking at numbers like, let's see, Hunter registered for Southern University, ran like a 4.44. So, you're looking at numbers like this and you're talking about a guy that's 6'4", 217 pounds that took a year off. That's still impressive. That's impressive numbers. So, it was just a great time for those guys. Just being down there, being in that atmosphere, I think they really were excited. And I definitely look forward to seeing some of their names on rosters. And I think a lot of them will have a lot of eyeballs on them.
Yeah. What were some of the things that got the guys who had been out for a year? What were some of the things you heard from them about what they were doing to sort of stay busy, stay active? Obviously, without any football or very little football, they couldn't do that. So what kind of any interesting stories or anything that you heard from those guys?
I spent a lot of time with family. A lot of them kept on saying family. And one person said, I spent time with family, but it was time, like it was good, but it was time to get back. And I think that was from Jackson State. He said, I enjoyed it, but it's time to break away. And then of course, other guys that are still working out, still doing things. But for the most part, it was, I spent time with family and just trying to come back off of that. Trying to get back into the swing of things and trying to work out. But, some of the guys were just saying, I stayed ready. I stayed prepared. I continue to work out because I knew I still had something left. And just hearing that type of thing, you knew that when they came in, it's like game time. They knew that it was full on competition.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't know, were there any other scouts that, other than the NFL, that were planning to be there? Because obviously I went back and looked at the HBCU Combine website, and they mentioned scouts from the CFL and even the XFL, which will be coming back, I think, in 2022 or 23, sometime like that. Was there any mention of those scouts being on site, or was it just the 32 NFL team?
So from my understanding, just 32, but there was an agent on site that I was talking to that did say that the CFL is also looking for people as well. So even if they aren't on site, I think eyes and ears are open from afar.
Yeah. I saw a tweet that you sent out. It's funny you mentioned having a conversation with an agent, because I saw a tweet that you sent out that said, now I don't know if this is long range goals, but you said I might want to be a sports agent, or I am going to be a sports agent. Is that something you've given thought to?
Look, I feel like I feel like I'm a celebrity at this point. Like, it's like, yeah, you gotta confirm No, it absolutely is. So what happened was I actually was going to start this process last year. And so COVID came and COVID shut everything down. And so in the process of that, I went through all these different things. And so now I'm sitting at home, like I don't have anything to really do with my time besides business stuff. So I started the process, and I was just on there just happy. I was like, okay, what can I do? And I was scrolling one day and I see these two courses, and one says how to become a sports agent. I was like, there's my sign. There's the sign to get started again. So I enrolled in that course. And the other one was this activism class that they're teaching at Morehouse that Chris Webber was doing. So I took those two courses. And so then I said, okay, I'm going to actually start working towards that, that whole thing of becoming a sports agent, which that's absolutely my goal for next year, to take that exam and ace it. So you see, I got a whole year time frame, but I definitely, absolutely.
Nice. How is C-Web as an instructor?
It's pretty good. It's pretty good because he's kind of like on off. He's not as like some of the other courses that I looked at. Like he's not in every segment because of course they introduce so many other people, like Spencer Haywood, Tommy Smith, John Carr. So they introduce so many people, Jamel Hill, and everybody has different segments. But I mean, he does go through there where he's actually doing the interviews with the guys, but it's not like he's in every segment.
Yeah. It kind of leads to my next thought, or my next kind of series of questions I wanted to ask you about professional athletes and their transition into this HBCU sports world. I feel like we're at a very interesting point where I think we as Black college alums, Black college fans, have to be careful not to, we're very protective of our brand, of our product. But at the same time, I think we have to be inclusive about who's coming in, and at the same time not turn our nose up at professional athletes wanting to be a part of this. Although there's some people, and I at times, and maybe one of them, where I kind of say, okay, why do you want to be a part of this? Do you want to work with HBCUs, or do you want to work for HBCUs for the betterment of the colleges and the student athletes? What's your thought on of the professional athlete? What do I want to call it? Maybe the professional athlete surge that we're starting to see, whether it be your Chris Paul, as you mentioned, you have Chris Webber and some other professionals, Deion Sanders. Most recently, you've got Eddie George, potentially, or actually not potentially, will be taking over at Tennessee State. What are your thoughts on professional athletes moving into this HBCU sports space?
So it's a two thing. It's also a two thing for me. First and foremost, we ask for the exposure. We want the exposure. We get the exposure. Then it's a problem with the exposure. So I'm like, well, do you really want the exposure, or do you not want the exposure? You can't say yes, and then you can't say no. The other part is that, why we're not, you have to give shots to those coaches that have been in the trenches. And that's how I look at the student athletes. We love to get the 4- and 5-star athletes, but we always have to show homage and pay homage to those that considered us first. As long as the focus remains on the student athlete and we don't get away from that, I'm totally fine. I don't care if Barack Obama come coach the team. It's still all about the student athlete. And I love the exposure that's happening, but a lot of people are like, okay, now everybody's running to the SWAC and everybody wants in on the SWAC. We are full. I said, until the commissioner says we're full, you're going to keep accepting what the commissioner says accept. So, I'm just like, I'm all for the exposure. I honestly am.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with you. I think the SWAC is moving into this space of, well, put it like this. I felt like outside of the Power Fives, the next conference, or really the next college football entity, really is Black college football.
Correct.
Because of, one, we've got the heritage and the years of playing. Even though when they didn't allow us to compete against other schools, we had the history and the legends
Right.
of the games. So
Right.
even though we see other FBS and FCS programs, they've only been around for maybe 40, 50 years.
Right.
We've got 2, 3, multi-level generations of alums, that have gone through Southern, FAMU, Grambling, places like this, Jackson State. So it's like, and then our market. We are consumers, so we should naturally be attractive to corporations. We just have to have the right kind of people that's going to get the value out of that,
Right.
which I have long felt like we have not gotten the value, because it's sort of like we've been happy to take the little bit of money you give us, but it's like we don't know our own worth. And it's like now we're starting to get to that point where we understand what our worth is. And you know what? If it takes a few professional athletes who have the kind of clout to help push that forward, then so be it.
Listen, if you say that LeBron is coming to my school to coach, we taking that, okay? I don't care if LeBron he got 0 years of coaching experience, because that's what we get. That's what we get into next. Or this person doesn't have coaching experience. And excuse me, but a lot of the people that's saying that these people don't have coaching experience don't have coaching or playing experience. So you're just a fan on social media judging another person. But at the same time, I always say, I get it. People give this person a shot, give this person a shot. But the same people that say, oh, you shouldn't go to a Jackson State or a Tennessee State. So then if you get a big caliber name over at a Southern University or a FAMU, are you going to still feel the same way?
Mm-hmm. You're right. Right. And look, when your program is winning, nobody's talking about so-and-so coming into your program.
Nobody. Nobody. They don't care whatsoever. We don't care.
Right. When you notice the names who have gone to programs, their team, they haven't been winning. Honestly, Jackson State wasn't winning at the level that they were used to. Tennessee State was not winning at the level they were used to. Morgan State, when Tyrone Wheatley came on, they weren't winning at the level that they were used to. So there's sort of a correlation there. It's like, okay, well, what else? Let's try something new.
Right.
And I guess and just my last thought about Eddie George coming on board, and I don't care if he's going to be the CEO of the program and you're going to have all these other coordinators who you're starting to hear rumors about. I do feel like how we treat our own still matters.
Absolutely.
And initially what kind of rubbed me the wrong way is the reports about how the former coach was, all this news was coming out. Well, the man still was coaching the game, that day. But then you kind of find out through the media reports the next day that it was sort of well known that he had already communicated it to the team on Saturday night. It was a contract renewal issue, so it wasn't like they were really firing him. They were just choosing not to move forward with the contract. So it's always interesting how stuff kind of gets the ball rolling. And
that's, from being in that space, I start getting the phone calls like, hey, did Coach Reed get fired? I said, I'm pretty sure it's just they didn't renew his contract. That's exactly what I said. I'm pretty sure. And I said, we have to be careful as media and people in this working space that we don't spread the rumors. Sure. I said, because if one person assumes that he was fired and you start that conversation, then everybody's going to say the same thing. I said, it's okay. It's totally fine to one, wait, and two, not always have to be the first person to put the story out there. You don't have to be the first person. It's okay to wait for the details.
Right. No, that's a great point. Great point. I'm glad to hear you kind of agree with that same thought process. And I had to be very careful to not hit send a few times, because I had to rephrase a few tweets and just be like, okay, wait a minute. How is this actually being done? That's probably what bothered me the most. And I have a sister who's a TSU alum, so I was able to kind of hear what TSU alums were feeling about the whole situation. And they are funny. Look, if you got any friends who are alums, if they've sent you some of the memes that are running through the TSU network, It is hilarious right now. That's all I'm
I
saying.
will on May 1st, I will have a nephew that will be a TSU alum. I
Okay.
have a nephew that will be. So listen, I do, and I did. I think some of my friends that are in Memphis, she was telling me about how haywire and how crazy. She was like, it's a lot of people that even they don't approve of it. I'm just like, oh goodness,
You're
you
like, what
don't
are you
approve of it, and then
going
they
on?
get out there and start winning, then you're gonna be happy.
Exactly. There it is. You haven't been winning in the OVC for like 8 years, haven't been to the playoffs in nearly a decade. And you get there, all of a sudden, we won't be able to talk to y'all because, that
And
aristocratic band stuff, you won't be, you'll be insufferable. We won't even be able to
right,
talk
exactly,
to y'all.
exactly.
Let's move forward to what's going on this week. This week's
Okay,
big week in the SWAC. We've got the Bayou Classic, which is near and dear to your heart. Now, that's going to be in Shreveport, Louisiana, right?
correct.
Whose stadium is that they're playing in?
So we're playing at Independence Stadium in Shreveport.
Okay.
And it's so funny because actually Southern has played Prairie View in Shreveport before. So it's
Okay.
nothing new to us. And then, of course, it's closer to Grambling. So we're playing in Independence Stadium. But yeah, it's not in Louisiana, it's not in New Orleans, but it still has the feel because of course we have another campus there. So we have SUSLA, Southern University Shreveport that's there. So
Oh,
we actually have another school that's there. So I'm gonna get by there and check them out. But we're still looking forward to that. Of course, we're looking for the W, of course, looking for another W to secure. But I think both sides, no matter how Gremlin's been playing, they'll always play us hard because it's a rivalry game. So, I don't expect them to give up anything. I don't expect it to be an easy win. I don't expect it to just be like a lopsided game at all because it's still Bayou Classic. It's still a rivalry. And I think both teams will play hard.
is there any sort of and I didn't get a chance to catch the SWAC football media thing this morning.
Mhm.
This game, most of these games usually determine who plays in the SWAC championship game, or at least that's how it's been for at least the last several years. It looks like if things kind of go the way they're going, this game won't determine, who will be in that game. I mean, it's actually the other game in the West, which is between UAPB and Prairie View, that may decide.
Correct.
What's
Correct.
the vibe? What's the vibe regarding that?
So that I did. I was actually on media calls this morning and someone asked about that. And so, with Odom's, it's pretty much we got to get through Bayou Classic. And that's where his mind is. We got to get through Bayou Classic. With Doc Gamble and Pine Bluff, they pretty much hold the keys to their destiny. And so, I can't just props to them because they playing like sound football. Like it's just a totally different football team there, and they really are doing what they're supposed to do. So this would be probably the first time in a long time the Bayou Classic has not determined who goes to the SWAC championship. And so it's as much as I was like, God, this would have been a great year for us. This would have been perfect for Southern, but I just say it wasn't the time. But it's definitely something. I guess I think they just want to get past Bayou Classic and then go with the what if buts and things. And so, I know Prairie View is going to be playing full speed. Pine Bluff is going to try to contain and keep playing full speed, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens this weekend.
And the Magic City Classic is actually going on this week. And I remember at the beginning of the year, actually, when I saw this schedule. Now, we missed out on the first week. I think that whoever the schedulers were put a really nice first week of the schedule together, like a matchup, some of the matchups in week one, but because of COVID and cancellations, it never materialized. But this was always the other week that we were looking at because you're like, oh, you got the Magic City one, you got the Bayou, you got UAPB and Prairie View. It was like, this should be like a triple header day on ESPN. It was like somebody should be playing at noon. Somebody should be playing at 4. Someone should be playing at 7, and just give me an all-day SWAC buffet.
Right.
That's how I kind of thought it should be. But anyway, what are your thoughts on A&M after watching the way that they just especially on the offensive side of the ball, the way they dismantled Jackson State? What are your thoughts on that game?
So Quill Glass was my Black College Experience Player of the Week. He was the Player of the Week for me. You talk about 440 rushing yards, 6 touchdowns. Like I mean, you can't take anything from that. And after watching that game and just watching how he just, I mean, it's just basically picked apart, and you think about where he's going next and the NFL, like they're talking about him and where he could be, like predictions and like how he will play as a quarterback. Just, I mean, I really would say this weekend, I would probably say Alabama A&M is going to come out on the top. Alabama A&M is going to come out on the top this weekend.
If I'm just throwing this out there because it just came to mind. If you're a Quill Glass, and I know he said he's committed to come back, and I don't know all the rules, but I do know there's something about the supplemental draft. If that opportunity presented itself and somebody said, "Hey, Quill, you could enter the NFL supplemental draft and possibly get drafted instead of maybe going back for his fall season," would you look, you're his agent. If you were his agent, what would you tell him to do? You know, I'm giving you that early shot. If you were somebody advising him, would you say, "Hey, Quill, look at that opportunity," or not, you might want to come back for the fall and then play it out like in a regular season where everyone's going to get a chance to see you? What would you tell him?
So that's funny because he does have those other opportunities. So what happens is you still have like the possibility of being invited to the Senior Bowl, the HBCU Legacy Bowl. So in my honest opinion, I would definitely play out that senior year. If you think it will be something where, okay, I might get injured or something in the case, and we've seen that he's been healthy. So in this case, I would play out that last year because there's opportunity to get more stats. There's opportunity to be invited to more showcases, bowl games, the possible NFL combine. So I would definitely play that last year. Definitely.
Okay. That's a good. I mean, I probably would advise him the same. I mean, and let you know, I don't know all the supplemental draft rules. It's
a lot. It's a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of
it's
stuff.
A lot of stuff that I'm learning going through this process of being, but it's a lot of stuff. It is.
Yeah, and so look, with the SWAC moving to 12 teams, and just the exposure that's going to blow up this fall. What are your thoughts on the SWAC moving to 12 and becoming in my opinion, the elite FCS conference, even without even being in the playoffs? We don't need the playoffs. The SWAC, and I can say we because, you know, my Rattlers are now part of the SWAC. So, I mean, I can say we.
Welcome to the SWAC.
Thank you. You know, we're excited, but what's your thoughts on the SWAC 12 now?
I'm really excited. And I tell people, I was like, oh my goodness, the Rattlers are the most annoying, trash talking folks. But I am so excited that FAMU is coming to the conference. I am so excited that FAMU is actually coming over. And I remember like shortly after we did get a chance to talk to AD Gaucher. And so I think it's a lot of camaraderie. I think everybody knows that this is indeed the mega conference. It's the conference to be in. And so, you know, I pray for the MEAC and whatever it's to become, but I think that, you know, FAMU is it's a storied program. It's a lot of history, some championships, you know, Bethune-Cookman, they don't really say much. They'll pick with FAMU people. They don't really say much. They just kind of like, yeah, we coming. They don't talk a lot of trash. But honestly, to see a conference where you have 12 programs, it speaks volumes for what Black college football is doing. And to say that this conference is getting stronger and stronger, I definitely commend the commissioner because it's getting stronger. And I'm like, wait, we look up and we might have 14. I was like, it ain't who we gonna be playing against? We're gonna be playing against no other conference.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be real fun to cover. Keisha, look, you've been gracious with your time this evening. I've had a blast talking with you. You know, so look, what's next? Well, I mean, obviously you got the Bayou Classic, but what any maybe big projects or things that are coming up that you want to share or let us know about? Anything that we can help promote for you?
So next that's coming up, most definitely, let's see, June is coming, and I can't believe we're almost going to be gravitating towards May. So in June, actually, there is the Black College Football Hall of Fame that's going on that they actually pushed to June. So I'll probably be at that. And also, I don't know if you know that, you know, Chris Paul is actually having that camp this summer over in Ohio. So I'm supposed to be, or excuse me, over in Carolina. I'm sorry, North Carolina. So I'll probably be at that. And it's actually the same day as the Black College Football Hall of Fame. So I don't know how I'm gonna juggle that, but I know I'll be able to pull off one and come back to the other. So there's probably the next major things that's coming up, but I'm pretty sure something will happen before then. I'm pretty sure it will.
Yeah, definitely. Looking forward to it. I mean, it's fun to kind of be in this space with folks like you and people who have such a great passion for this. I mean, I enjoy the work you do, and anytime I see stuff you're doing, and I mean that's what's fun about right now. I mean, there's so many different people telling so many different stories. It's a great place to be in, and so I'm honored to be working alongside you, even if it's hundreds of miles away, watching you do what you do.
Are you in Florida?
Yeah, I'm in Orlando.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, my broadcast partner Roy, he's up in Atlanta, obviously.
Okay.
Yeah, anytime we get up that way, I definitely have to make sure to reach out to you.
Please do.
Give the plugs. Let people know where they can find Black College Experience. What's the best way to reach out and to connect with you and find all the things that you're involved in and doing?
So I am Black College EXP on Twitter. I am Black College Experience on Instagram, the Black College Experience on Facebook, and then of course the YouTube will be under Black College Experience as well. The website is www.blackcollegeexperienceinc.com, and that's where you can find us on all of those social media handles.
All right. Look, I know it's a challenge, man. Trying to get all the. I saw you say you had a designer doing some fire graphics that I saw with the play. Look, it's a challenge, isn't it? It's a grind.
It is. It's so she was like, here's a template. Here's the thing. Here's 28 things. I was like, oh, fine. All I got to do is just plug in. So once I just got to plug in stuff, I'm good. All I got to do is just change the pictures. But trying to go in and change pictures and change numbers and remembering that it's not just 2 schools playing this week, but it's 10 schools. And you got to get all of those down to a science. And then you got a story that's coming out that the Black College Football Hall of Fame is sending you. So you're trying to get that out. And you're just like, okay, you're moving in so many different directions. But I enjoy every moment of it, especially when it comes to the student athletes. When they come back and say thank you for everything that you've done, that's when you know that you have done your job.
That's a great feeling. It's a great way. Great thing to hear when you hear that. It kind of makes all these long hours and late nights, early mornings. It makes it worth it a little bit. It's why we do it, because we love sports and we love our HBCUs, and we love the young people that are representing them. So
absolutely.
All right. Well, hey, Keisha Kelley, Black College Experience, thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure talking with you. I will see you somewhere down the road, some games, some event, some media day. We'll chop it up again, I'm sure, down the road. I appreciate your time.
All righty. Good night.
All right. We'll be back right after these words.